Hello, this course will introduce you to biocontrols that are regulated as pesticides, biopesticides. My name is Amara Dunn-Silver, and I am the biocontrol specialist with the Cornell Integrated Pest Management Program. I want to let you know that there will be some information in this presentation about pesticides. Please remember that the pesticide label is the law. You must read pesticide labels before using pesticides. The information contained in this presentation is not a substitute for reading the label. Laws and labels change. It is your responsibility to use pesticides legally. I will also refer to some pesticide trade names in the presentation, simply for convenience and as examples. I am not endorsing specific products by naming them. I consider myself to be someone who is experting in biological control. I spend a lot of time learning about and engaging with the topic, but I don't know everything there is to know. I like to share this at the beginning of my presentations. I will also be asking you to participate in this presentation because I think it will make the course more interesting for you and help you learn more. At several points, I will pause and ask you to think about and answer a question. You do not need to submit a response to these questions. We will start today with a brief explanation of what biological control is and how it is related to the practice of integrated pest management. Next, we'll talk about which biological control agents are regulated as pesticides and therefore considered biopesticides. We will then discuss biopesticide modes of action and how this impacts the ways they should be used. We will finish with a brief discussion of general best practices for using biopesticides and where you can learn more about their efficacy. The term biological control is often shortened to biocontrol, and I'll be using that word throughout the rest of this course. Biocontrol is using living organisms, or the things they produce, to control pests. Ladybugs eating aphids is a common example of biocontrol. The aphid is the pest, and the ladybug is the biocontrol agent, or the natural enemy, that eats the aphids. But biocontrol is a lot more. We could think about this green circle in the middle of the slide representing every tool that can be used to control pests. Sometimes living things and their products control pests. These include insects and other arthropods like spiders and mites, which look like insects but are not, nematodes, which are tiny worms, and microorganisms or microbes, which include bacteria, fungi, and viruses. Biocontrol happens where the green pest control circle overlaps each of these other three circles: insects, nematodes, and microbes. These overlap zones are where natural enemies or biocontrol agents are helping us with pest control. You might ask, where do plant extracts fall in this diagram? We'll talk more about these later. You also might be wondering, how does biocontrol fit into integrated pest management, or IPM? The goal of IPM is to manage pests while protecting human health, the environment, and the financial bottom line. People often talk about 4 categories of pest management that are part of IPM: cultural, physical, biological, and chemical. Practicing good IPM often involves starting with cultural or physical pest management strategies to prevent pest problems in the first place. Biological and chemical controls may be used if cultural and physical control strategies are not sufficient. Some biocontrols pose less risk than some chemical controls, but it is inaccurate to say that all biocontrols pose less risk than all chemical controls. Now we'll move on to talking about which biocontrols are biopesticides. Recall our circle diagram. Different organisms can be biocontrol agents or natural enemies. According to the Federal Insecticide, Fungicide, and Rodenticide Act, often called FIFRA, a pesticide is any substance or mixture of substances intended for preventing, destroying, repelling, or mitigating any pest. Under FIFRA, insect and nematode natural enemies are exempt and are not regulated as pesticides by the EPA. They are not considered substances or mixtures of substances. However, microbes are regulated as pesticides. Along with plant extracts, pheromones, and other naturally occurring biochemicals, microbial biocontrol agents are considered biopesticides. Examples of naturally occurring biochemicals include potassium bicarbonate and potassium silicate. I tend to think of those not as biocontrol agents, but they are biopesticides. Plant-incorporated protectants, found in some genetically modified organisms, are also regulated as biopesticides by the EPA. Some genetically modified plants are protected from pests because genetic material is put into the plant and that genetic material encodes a protein that harms the pest. For example, some corn plants contain genes from the bacterium Bacillus thuringiensis, Bt corn, to protect them from caterpillar feeding. We won't discuss plant-incorporated protectants for the remainder of this course, but you should know that they are considered biopesticides. So, just to summarize, biopesticides contain as their active ingredients plants, microbes, or biochemicals. As I said, we'll ignore GMOs for now. The purpose of biopesticides is to control pests, or, as FIFRA says, to prevent, destroy, repel, or mitigate pests. It is important to remember that biopesticides are pesticides. They are registered by the EPA and they have registration numbers. They have pesticide labels, which you must read and follow. These labels contain important information, like the length of the restricted entry interval, or REI, signal words, and what personal protective equipment applicators must wear. Some biopesticides can harm bees or other pollinators, so the label may instruct you not to apply them in such a way that pollinators will be exposed. Many biopesticides are allowed in certified organic production, but not all are. It's easy to think that just because it's biological, it's completely safe and you don't need to be careful when you use it. This is not true. Biocontrol does not mean zero risk. There are risks associated with every pest management tool, and biocontrols are no different. Risks posed by pest management strategies, including biocontrol, could include environmental, economic, or human health risks. You may have also heard of biostimulants, which are different from biopesticides. Biostimulants are products whose goal is to improve plant health. Their purpose is not pest control. Biostimulants may contain microbes, hence the overlap with our microbe circle. They may also contain plant or seaweed extracts or other natural compounds. So you can see the active ingredients in biostimulants and biopesticides can be very similar. It all comes down to the product's purpose. Notice that this yellow biostimulants oval does not overlap with the green control pest circle. As of the recording of this presentation, biostimulants were not registered with the EPA. However, this might change in the future. You might be wondering, how do I know if a biocontrol is a biopesticide? If you are trying to determine if a product is a biopesticide, here are 3 things you can look for. First, does the product claim to control pests? Biostimulants should not make this claim. Second, is the active ingredient a microbe or a plant extract? The microbe or plant is usually listed by its scientific name, which will be printed in italics on the label, so those active ingredients are fairly easy to recognize. It can be more difficult to tell whether other active ingredients are considered natural biochemicals or just plain chemicals, just by looking at the name. The EPA website does have a list of all active ingredients regulated as biopesticides if you're curious. The link is in the course resources. Finally, you can look for an EPA registration number to know if a product is a pesticide or not. However, there's a caveat with this clue too. Minimum risk pesticides are still considered pesticides, but they are not registered with the EPA, at least as of the recording of this presentation. As a result, they won't have an EPA registration number, and they have not been evaluated with the same tests for efficacy and safety as a registered pesticide would be. In order for a product to be considered a minimum risk pesticide, it must contain only active and inert ingredients that are allowed by federal regulations. There is a list of allowed ingredients. Minimum risk pesticides are not allowed for the control of organisms that pose a threat to human health. Sometimes labels for minimum risk products will state that they are exempt under FIFRA, Section 25B, but they are not required to state this. The resources for this course include a link to more information about the active ingredients in minimum risk pesticides. Okay, now we're going to practice. I will show you a picture or give you a description of a product, and I will ask you to decide whether or not it is a biopesticide. I'll pause after I show you the product and describe each product, and that will give you a chance to decide what your answer is, and then I'll give you the answer. Our first product is Serenade Opti, and I'm showing you some pictures from the label. This product has the OMRI listed logo on it. The active ingredient is Bacillus subtilis, which is a bacterium, and it has an EPA registration number. Is this a biopesticide? If you said that it was a biopesticide, you are correct. The fact that it has an EPA registration number tells you that it is a pesticide, and the fact that the active ingredient is a microbe means that it's a biopesticide. Here is our next example. Checkmate, according to the label, is a biochemical for the mating disruption of the codling moth and hickory shuckworm. Its active ingredient is EE810 dodecadiene-1-ol, and it has an EPA registration number. What do you think? Biopesticide or not? Checkmate is a biopesticide. We know that it is a pesticide because it controls 2 moth pests and has an EPA registration number. Pheromones used in mating disruption are biopesticides. This slide shows pictures of a product called Mosquito Bits that claims to kill mosquitoes. If you zoom in, you will see that it has an EPA registration number and that the active ingredient is Bacillus thuringiensis subspecies israelensis, strain 144, solids, spores, and insecticidal toxins. This is a species of bacteria. It also has a caution signal word. Is it a biopesticide? This is a biopesticide. We know because its purpose is to control pests, its active ingredient is a microbe and its products, and it has an EPA registration number. Our next example is a product called Grub-Away nematodes. This is a product that contains live nematodes and claims to control grubs in the lawn. Is it a biopesticide? Grub-Away is a biocontrol product, but it is not a biopesticide. Remember that insect-eating nematodes are not regulated as pesticides. Our final example is a product called Bioactivate. The website claims that this seaweed extract provides your plants with nutrients and natural plant hormones. It does not have an EPA registration number. Is this a biopesticide? This product is not a biopesticide. Although it contains natural ingredients, there's no claim that it controls pests, only that it grows stronger, healthier plants. The fact that there is no EPA registration number is also a clue that it is not a biopesticide. Remember that minimum risk pesticides do not have EPA registration numbers because they are not registered by the EPA, even though they are pesticides. Now we're ready to talk about biopesticide modes of action. Some work differently than conventional chemical pesticides. Knowing the mode of action of a biopesticide can help you use it more effectively. For example, knowing whether the active ingredient in a biopesticide needs to be alive at the time of application and for how long after application can have implications for how best to store it or how long it can be stored and still be effective. Some modes of action impact certain life stages of a pest, especially insect pests. Understanding which stage of the pest damages the plant, how many generations of the pest can be expected each season, and which stage is targeted by the biopesticide is important. Some biopesticides kill insects quickly, while others cause the insect to stop feeding and eventually starve. You should know how quickly the biopesticide is supposed to kill the pest so that you know what success looks like. Some modes of action require the biopesticide to be applied well before a pest shows up. If an insect pest or plant disease predictably arrives at a particular time of year, these modes of action may be better suited for these pests than for occasional pests whose arrival is harder to predict. Over the next series of slides, I will show you a picture that represents a mode of action of a biopesticide. I will also provide a list of possible modes of action. I will pause while you decide which mode of action you think is best represented by the picture. Then I will tell you the answer. Before we start looking at my pictorial representations of these modes of action, I wanted to provide a little explanation of the pictures. In some of these pictures, I use blue shapes to represent biocontrol agents or the things they produce. For example, blue diamonds are compounds produced by or from something living that help with pest control. The blue rectangle with a smiley face represents a microorganism that is a biocontrol agent. The blue droplets are things produced by the biocontrol microorganism. This yellow rectangle with a frightened face represents a microorganism that is harmful because it makes plants sick, a plant pathogen. Here is our first picture. Blue microscopic spores, remember blue represents biocontrol agents, land on a yellow insect. The spores grow, represented by the little blue puffs, and the insect dies. The mode of action options to choose from are keep out, where a living microbe grows on a plant, leaving no space or food for a plant pathogen. Eat, where a living microbe grows on and inside a pest, consuming it. Turn on resistance, where the biocontrol agent activates the plant's natural defenses against pests before the pest shows up. Poison, where the biocontrol agent or something made from or by it kills the pest directly. And grow strong plants, where the biocontrol agent causes the plant to be stronger, healthier, and more resilient. What is the mode of action? In this picture, I was trying to depict a biocontrol agent eating the pest. This mode of action can work against either plant diseases or insects. Beauveria bassiana is a fungus that kills insects this way. It can be found in pesticides like Botanigard and Microbes. Gemstar is a pesticide that contains a virus that kills corn earworms. Paraconiotherium minitans is a fungus that eats another fungus, the fungus that causes white mold on many different vegetables. It can be found in the pesticide Lalstop contans. Biocontrol agents that work this way must be alive because they are growing on and gaining nutrition from the pests they are killing. If you are using a product that works this way, be sure you know how to store it and what the shelf life is. as well as what you can do to make sure it survives the application process. You don't want to waste time applying a dead biocontrol agent that is no longer capable of eating your pest. In our next picture, we see a caterpillar that has encountered some blue diamonds, representing the biocontrol agent, either by contact or by ingestion. Later, the caterpillar is dead. In another example of this same mode of action, we see happy blue biocontrol agent microbes squirting out blue droplets onto frightened-looking plant pathogens. Again, our options for modes of action are keep out, where a living microbe grows on a plant, leaving no space or food for a plant pathogen; eat, where a living microbe grows on and inside a pest, consuming it; turn on resistance, where the biocontrol agent activates the plant's natural defenses against pests before the pest shows up; poison, where the biocontrol agent or something made from or by it kills the pest directly; grow strong plants, where the biocontrol agent causes the plant to be stronger, healthier, and more resilient. What is the mode of action? This was my depiction of the poison mode of action. It can work against either insect pests or plant diseases, and it is the mode of action that I think is most similar to how a conventional chemical pesticide works. The biocontrol agent just outright poisons the pest. This is a common mode of action for biopesticides. It is also common for biopesticides to have more than one mode of action. For example, there are many different species of bacillus bacteria. Some kill insects, for example, dipel and other pesticides containing Bacillus thuringiensis, or Bt, while others kill plant pathogens. For example, products like double nickel that contain Bacillus amyloliquefaciens. Venerate is a pesticide that contains a different kind of bacteria, Burkholderia, that kills insects and nematode pests. Biopesticides that work this way might be alive when you are using them to kill pests, or you might be applying compounds produced by or extracted from the biocontrol agents. Whether or not the biocontrol agent is alive has implications for how you store and use the product. In this picture, we see leaves of a plant covered in blue, smiling biocontrol microorganisms. Some frustrated-looking yellow plant pathogens can't find any space. I've given you the same 5 options for modes of action. Keep out, where a living microbe grows on a plant, leaving no space for a pathogen. Eat, where a living microbe grows on and inside a pest, consuming it. Turn on, where the biocontrol agent activates the plant's natural defenses against pests before the pest shows up. Poison, where the biocontrol agent or something made from or by it kills the pest directly. And grow strong plants, where the biocontrol agent causes the plant to be stronger, healthier, and more resilient. What is the mode of action? This picture was meant to represent keeping out or excluding plant pathogens from the plant. The only biocontrol agents I'm aware of that work this way target plant pathogens, not insect pests. Because the microorganism needs to grow over and colonize part of a plant, whether it is leaves, roots, flowers, etc., biocontrol agents that work this way need to be alive, so be careful how you store and apply them. I've listed 3 different example products that work in this way. All 3 happen to be bacteria, although there are other organisms that are active ingredients in biocontrol agents that also work this way. Actinovate contains Streptomyces lidicus. Botector protects plants from botrytis and contains Aureobasidium pullulans. Serafel contains a particular strain of Bacillus amyloliquefaciens, a different strain from the one in double nickel that was mentioned on an earlier slide. Some of these sample products have additional modes of action besides this one. As I said, that's fairly common for microbial biocontrol agents to have multiple modes of action by which they control pests. In this picture, I'm showing blue biocontrol microbes on the leaves and roots of the plant, and the whole plant is surrounded by what looks like yellow lightning bolts. Again, our modes of action are keep out, where a living microbe grows on a plant, leaving no space or food for a plant pathogen; eat, where a living microbe grows on and inside a pest, consuming it; turn on resistance, where the biocontrol agent activates the plant's natural defenses against pests before the pest shows up; poison, where the biocontrol agent or something made from or by it kills the pest directly; and grow strong plants, where the biocontrol agent causes the plant to be stronger, healthier, and more resilient. What is the mode of action? Plants can defend themselves from plenty of microorganisms, sort of in the same way that humans have immune systems to defend us. If you turn on a plant's defenses before the pathogen shows up, the plant may not get sick. As far as I know, this mode of action only works against plant diseases, but who knows what we'll learn in the future. Lifeguard contains the bacterium Bacillus mycoides, isolate J. Turning on plant defenses is its only mode of action. The bacteria in Lifeguard are also alive. Turn on resistance is also a mode of action for Regalia, which contains an extract of the giant knotweed plant. So here we have an example of something produced by or from a plant controlling a pest. I would consider this plant extract a biocontrol, even though the plant, when it is alive, is not controlling a pest, and can be a pest. Obviously, the giant knotweed extract is not alive. Biocontrol agents with this mode of action might be alive or might not be. Make sure you know about the product you are using. On this slide, you can see two plants. The one on the left has no happy blue biocontrol microbes on it and is smaller. The one on the right has happy blue microbes on leaves and roots and is larger. The modes of action to choose among are keep out, where a living microbe grows on a plant, leaving no space or food for a plant pathogen; eat, where a living microbe grows on and inside a pest, consuming it; turn on resistance, where the biocontrol agent activates the plant's natural defenses against pests before the pest shows up; poison, where the biocontrol agent or something made from or by it kills the pest directly; and grow strong plants, where the biocontrol agent causes the plant to be stronger, healthier, and more resilient. What is the mode of action? These pictures represent growing strong plants. Like people, healthier plants are more resilient against attacks from plant pathogens. Most biopesticides that work this way are targeting plant diseases, but there are a few that protect plants from insects. Some examples of biocontrol agents that work this way include Root Shield, which contains the fungus Trichoderma harzianum, and many products that contain bacillus species, including Serenade. Biocontrol agents with this mode of action might be alive, but they might not be. Many biopesticides that work this way have additional modes of action. You might be thinking that this mode of action sounds a lot like my description of biostimulants, growing strong, healthy, quality plants. It all depends on what the manufacturer is claiming as the purpose of the product. The purpose of a biostimulant is to grow healthy, high-quality plants. The purpose of a biopesticide is to control pests, and it does this by producing a stronger plant. In this next picture, we see two leaves. One is covered with blue diamonds and happy blue microbes, both representing biopesticides. The other leaf has no blue diamonds or microbes on it and is being eaten by a caterpillar. We now have a new list of possible biopesticide modes of action. Stop feeding. The biocontrol agent stops the pest from feeding. Stop growth. The biocontrol agent stops the pest from advancing to its next life stage. Stop reproduction. The biocontrol agent limits the pest's ability to reproduce. Or repel. The biocontrol agent causes pests to gather or feed elsewhere where it wasn't applied. What is the mode of action? Some biopesticides work by causing insect pests to avoid plants that have been treated with the biopesticide. A biocontrol agent with this mode of action might be alive at the time you are applying it to the plant, or it might not be. Also, biopesticides might work this way only against some species of insects, but have a different mode of action against other species. Or they might only repel certain insects at certain life stages. Make sure you read and follow the label. Products containing azadirachtin can work this way against some insects. It's important to know that while azadirachtin is extracted from neem seeds, azadirachtin has a different mode of action than hydrophobic extracts of neem oil. The bacterium Chromobacterium subsugi and things it produces while fermenting can also work this way. In our next set of pictures, we see a caterpillar happily eating a leaf. Both the leaf and the caterpillar are covered with blue diamonds and smiling blue microbes, both biocontrol agents. After a little while, the caterpillar is no longer eating the leaf and looks sad, maybe like it has a stomach ache. As with our last picture, our options are stop feeding, the biocontrol agent stops the pest from feeding, stop growth, the biocontrol agent stops the pest from advancing to its next life stage, stop reproduction, the biocontrol agent limits the pest's ability to reproduce, repel, the biocontrol agent causes pests to gather or feed elsewhere where it wasn't applied. What is the mode of action? This mode of action works against insect pests by causing them to stop feeding. Eventually, the pest starves because it isn't eating. Importantly, a biopesticide that works this way won't immediately result in dead pests. You should expect to see plant damage stop, with delayed death of pests following later. It will take them some time to starve. Depending on the biopesticide, the pest might need to eat the biocontrol agent, or just contacting the pest may be enough. This is one mode of action for some products containing Bacillus thuringiensis subspecies Kerstaki, like Dipel, or azadirachtin, like Azadirect. As with the last mode of action, this mode of action may only work against some species or some life stages. Some biocontrol agents that work this way are used as live microbes, and some are not. On this slide, we have another set of before and after pictures. On the left, we see 4 aphids on a leaf. 3 have been exposed to blue diamonds. Later, the 3 treated aphids are the same size, while the 4th untreated aphid is larger. Which of these modes of action do you think is represented? Stop feeding, the biocontrol agent stops the pest from feeding. Stop growth, the biocontrol agent stops the pest from advancing to its next life stage. Stop reproduction, the biocontrol agent limits the pest's ability to reproduce. Or repel, the biocontrol agent causes pests to gather or feed elsewhere where it wasn't applied. What is the mode of action? I call this mode of action stop growth. Treatment with the biopesticide results in the insect or arthropod pest not being able to grow or molt, advance to the next life stage. Eventually the pest dies, but it may not be quickly. So with this mode of action, again, you might see a lag between biocontrol agent application and death of the pest. Like our last 2 modes of action, these biocontrol agents might only work with this mode of action on certain insect species or certain ages, especially younger insects. They may work on contact, or they may require the pest to ingest the biopesticide. This can be yet another mode of action for some products that contain azadirachtin against some pests. It can also be a mode of action for a particular strain of the bacterium Burkholderia, which is sold under a few different trade names, including Venerate. Some biocontrol agents that work this way are used alive, and others are not. Make sure that you know. We've made it to our last mode of action. In this picture, you see two yellow butterflies. They are surrounded by a cloud of blue diamonds, but love is not in the air for these butterflies. Again, the options for modes of action are stop feeding, the biocontrol agent stops the pest from feeding; stop growth, the biocontrol agent stops the pest from advancing to its next life stage; stop reproduction, the biocontrol agent limits the pest's ability to reproduce; repel, the biocontrol agent causes pests to gather or feed elsewhere where it wasn't applied. What is the mode of action? This picture represents the stop reproduction mode of action. Biopesticides with this mode of action work in one of two ways. Some are pheromones that mimic chemicals produced by insects that help males and females find each other. Mating disruption products are examples of these. Others actually cause female insects or other arthropods to lay fewer eggs. This can be a mode of action for Grandivo, at least for certain pest species or life stages. Some products that work this way contain live microorganisms and others do not. If you are targeting a pest where the adults cause crop damage, not just the larvae or other immature stages, you should expect a biopesticide that works this way to reduce the pest population over time, but not prevent damage from the adults. An additional control strategy to prevent damage from adult pests may be needed. We will end this course by talking about why you might want to consider using biopesticides and some general best practices for their use. When I have talked with growers about biopesticides, I have heard many reasons for why they are interested in using them. Some simply say that they effectively control pests, so of course they use them. For some pests, or in some crops, or some settings, other pest control strategies are not available or not effective. And if there's biopesticide options that are available and effective, they'll use them. Some are interested in using biopesticides for pesticide resistance management. As we just discussed, biopesticides often have different modes of action from conventional chemical pesticides, and many biopesticides have multiple modes of action, making them valuable in preserving the efficacy of conventional pest control chemicals. Some growers use biopesticides to protect beneficial insects, like predators or pollinators. But you should know that not every biopesticide has zero impacts on non-target insects. Make sure you read and follow the label. Many biopesticides have very short restricted entry intervals and/or very short pre-harvest intervals. This can be very useful when pests need to be managed close to harvest or in crops that require workers or customers to be in the field or greenhouse frequently. Many growers are concerned about worker safety and prefer to choose pesticides, biopesticides or not, that pose less risk to human health. Many biopesticides are lower risk. Some growers cite consumer interest in more sustainable or ecologically friendly pest management. There is a perception that biopesticides fit these criteria, even though, as we discussed, biological does not mean zero risk. Finally, growers generally view themselves as stewards of the land and environment where they grow. In some cases, replacing chemical pesticides with biopesticides can reduce the risk of environmental harm. Most of these biopesticide best practices are similar to best practices for any pesticide. You must read and follow the label. It is the law, and it will also enable you to use the product as intended, maximizing the chance of efficacy. Someone told me once that biocontrols don't make bad growers good, they make good growers better. Biopesticides, like any pest management tool, will be most effective when used as part of an IPM strategy. They are not a silver bullet to manage problem pests. Part of good IPM is knowing which pests to expect and scouting so that you can detect pests when populations are still low. Most biopesticides will be most effective when pest pressure is still low, and some must be used preventatively, as we discussed when we talked about modes of action. We discussed biopesticide modes of action because the more you know about how the biopesticide is supposed to work and how you are supposed to use it, the better. In the resources section of this course, there is a link to profiles for some biopesticides. I'm always adding to the list. These profiles contain information like mode of action, tank mix compatibility, and recommended storage conditions. The information is collected from pesticide labels, EPA registration documents, scientific literature, and the biopesticide manufacturers. The profiles are not replacements for the pesticide label, but they can be useful supplementary information. Knowing about your product will make your use of biopesticides more effective. Here are some questions you might want to ask the distributor or manufacturer before purchasing either a biopesticide or a biostimulant. I think that someone who is selling you a product ought to be able to provide answers to these questions. First, is it a biopesticide or a biostimulant? What's its purpose? Second, how does it work? What is its mode of action? And then what are the implications of that mode of action on how you should be using the product? Is the active ingredient alive? Does it need to stay alive in order to be effective? How long does it have to stay alive after application? Are there any special instructions for application? For example, is it most likely to be effective if it is applied within a particular temperature range or time of day? Is there an optimal range for the pH of the product when mixed up in the spray tank? Finally, what is it compatible with? Can you mix it with other pesticides or fertilizers? Some biopesticides should not be applied within a few hours or even a few days of certain other pesticides. It's also important to know whether the biopesticide is compatible with arthropod biocontrol agents, whether they are ones that you are applying or they're naturally occurring in the area. Do biopesticides work? This is the question I am probably asked most often, and it is obviously a very important question. Yes, they can work. It may take some work to optimize exactly how and when you use a biopesticide in order to achieve maximum efficacy. And sometimes you can replace some but not all of your conventional chemical pesticide applications with biopesticides, resulting in some of the benefits we discussed earlier, related to reducing harm to the environment and human health. Local extension professionals may have direct experience with trialing some biopesticides, or they may be able to suggest other resources with specific details about which biopesticides are most effective against specific pests and in specific crops and settings that are important to you. If you really enjoy spreadsheets, there are some detailed spreadsheets with biopesticide efficacy results that are linked from the course resources. In this course, we discussed what biological control is and how it is related to the practice of integrated pest management. We learned that microbes and plant extracts are regulated as pesticides and therefore they are considered biopesticides. We talked about biopesticide modes of action and how these modes of action impact effective use of biopesticides. Finally, we discussed some of the advantages of using biopesticides, as well as general best practices for using biopesticides in order to maximize efficacy. We also talked about how you can learn more about the efficacy of specific biopesticides. I appreciate your time and attention today. You can learn more about integrated pest management and biocontrol from the Cornell Integrated Pest Management Program. I've listed on this slide a few different social media accounts for both Cornell IPM and myself. If you are interested in biocontrol, you might also like to subscribe to my blog. The link is in the course resources. If you have questions about today's presentation, you can email me at arc55@cornell.edu. Thank you.